beginning of COVID, I found it really difficult not to go out and do things. And so, what I did to keep myself occupied, because I was also dealing with the loss of my son, and what I did was I started organizing all the photographs that we had that I inherited from my mother. And I organized them, I scanned a bunch of them, and then I decided to make this little book for my children. Well, I called it When Eagles Fly, Beautiful Things Happen. On the front of the memoir is my mother, myself, and my father. And we are standing in front of the bar at the Polish Legion. It used to be on Barton Street. It's moved now, but yeah. We used to, my dad was an officer at that Legion, and he also was the bartender there for quite a while. And so we frequented that place. I had my first wedding there. But I decided to, compile all the pictures of my ancestors and make this little book and pass it down so that my kids and their kids will know a little bit about their history. And we start off with a picture of Poland. My dad was born in a little town called Inwald, Poland, on a farm. I have a picture of my grandmother and grandfather, and this was even before my father was born. So that's how old this picture was. And those are, I think that's my Uncle Adam. One of them is Roman and one of them is Frank, I think. That's my grandfather. His name was Michael Zajac, and my grandmother's name was Maria. And this, I believe, is a cousin. His youngest brother, Jimmy, it's actually Ignatz, but I used to call him Uncle Jimmy, and he was the coolest uncle ever. Whenever he lived in Detroit, and we used to go and visit them, whenever we left, he would always shake my hand, and inside his hand was a $20 bill, and it was American. So no, he was really cool. And not just for the money. He was a really nice man, and I really enjoyed visiting them. And then my dad was in the war, the Second World War. He was in the Polish Army. He was a military police, and he was captured and in prison for most of the war, I think. But then at the end of it, the Red Cross, he said, saved his life. They rescued him, and he was forever grateful. And my mother, on the other side of the pond, grew up in Hamilton. And here is a picture of my mother's family: my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, and my Aunt Joyce. My grandfather, Lewis Clifford Horton, and my grandmother was Miranda Singleton Horton. Yeah. And so there's my mother, Doris, and my Aunt Joyce. These are pictures of my mother, and often she was with her sister, but this is a picture of them at Niagara Falls when they were little. I have a lot of old pictures. I even have a picture of my mother's grandparents, who she loved dearly. And then I assumed my mother and my father, they met, they fell in love, they got married, and, the whole story. And here's a picture of my parents when they first met, and they were young and in love. But if you turn the page back one, I also have proof that my mother was married before my father. This is my mother's first husband, Dave Joss. And he was a nice man. I ended up meeting him. And that is my brother, Murray. Now, my brother is 9 years older than me. And that's him there with my mom and my grandmother in the background. I didn't even know I had a brother until I was about 9 or 10. There's always a story in every family. I even mentioned in the memoir that my parents became pregnant in 1954, but unfortunately the baby boy was stillborn on April the 1st, 1955. They named him Michael, and he is buried with my mom's grandparents, the Singletons, at Woodlands Cemetery. And then the following year, on May the 2nd, 1956, they had little old me. There's me as a baby. Aww. They were happy to have a healthy baby girl. And there's lots of pictures of me growing up here. My first love, Andrei Opalinsky. My dad used to go and visit some of his Polish friends all the time, and I would go with him. And this one couple, Eric and Ginny Opalinsky, had 2 children. They had Andre and Ava, and I just thought Andre was the cutest. I was only a little kid, like really little. And then this is a picture of my parents on their wedding day. When I was little, I was a flower girl. And this, I think, is when I first met my brother. Yeah. And my dog, Susie. I used to call everything Susie. I used to love the name Susie. So much so that I used to tell people that I just meant my name was Susie. And this is my Auntie Mary and my Uncle Joe. And my Auntie Mary used to take care of me when I was a little girl. She was from England. When I learned how to talk, I learned a lot of English slang because she taught me, most of my first words. And my father at that time spoke very broken English. He could hardly speak English at all. And so when I was talking to him using this English slang, he didn't know what the heck I was talking about. Like I'd say, "Daddy, can I have a jam butty?" And he would like, "What? You want a what? A butty? A jam butty." I share a story in here about an incident that happened with me and my Auntie Mary when we were on a shopping excursion down at Sears at the Center Mall. She went there to get something in the hardware department, and I was about 3 or 4. Probably 3 going on 4, something like that. But I was in the hardware department, and she was talking to the salesperson for a minute, and I really had to go potty. And there were display toilets, and I thought nothing of it. And I went potty on the display toilet. And she was a little embarrassed. And what was funny is she said the next time we came back to the store, they had plastic covers over the toilets. So, yeah, you're welcome. She was the nicest lady, and she had a little boy, Michael. And when she brought him home, I was there, and he was my little brother. He still is. I still communicate with Michael. Yeah, he's a wonderful man. He's a union activist. He really likes to fight for the people who need, or be the voice for the people who don't have one. And then, of course, in 1967, our family went to Poland, and there's where I met my father's side of the family. I saw his farm where he grew up. I got sprayed in the face with cow's milk straight from the cow. I was walking along the side of my dad's house one day, and this lady was there with a cow, and she squirted me. I don't know, maybe it's a thing, but yeah, it was really funny. I enjoyed it. And there's a picture of me with Santa Claus, and that's a Santa Claus that was at Robinson's department store that was down Gore Park. I used to love going there because you used to get coloring books there, like little coloring books and candy canes. And then I also have a picture of some of the trees that we had up in our house throughout the years. And on this side, you can try to guess what year each tree is from. Growing up, Christmas was my favorite time of year. It was the one holiday that my entire family would get together and share a meal. There were laughs, tears, singing, and lots of wonderful stories. Being a child, it was the presents. Now I realize that it wasn't what was under the tree that mattered as much as who was around the tree. This book is a glimpse of our family history, what I know up until I was in my early teens. As I got older, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Funny thing is that life has a way of figuring that out for you. Looking back now, I see that my childhood was amazing, and I have a lot to be grateful for. My mom and dad were the best. Later in life, they were fondly known as Bapsha and Jaja to everyone, a title that they cherished. Hopefully, through this book, you will know and love them too. This is it for now. This is us. With my love, Loretta. I should have put Mom. And then I just have some pictures. And remember I said my dad was a Legionnaire? Well, there he is sitting there with all his fellow Legionnaires. He was on the executive for so long of the Royal Canadian Legion, Polish Branch 315. And that's it. And on the back, I have the Polish Eagle and the coat of arms for Zajac and for Horton. As I was scrolling through the pages of my family memoir, I noticed that there is so many more stories that I haven't shared. So many people that were an important part of my childhood and growing up. There's my adopted sister, Brenda. Okay, she wasn't technically adopted, but when she was young, my parents took care of her, and she lived with us for a couple of years, and she's always been my sister, and she still is to this day. She is the godmother of my two youngest daughters, and I am the godmother of one of her daughters. And I wish I had paid more attention to her, even though she was younger than me. She was far more mature. And yeah, she's just an amazing woman. And of course, there are my cousins from both sets of parents. My mother's sister, Joyce, got married and had a family. She had Wayne, Gary, Roger, Judy, and Sandy, and Chris. And we all grew up together. Almost every Saturday, we would go down to their little house on Lottridge and visit my aunt and uncle's place. My mom, aunt, and grandmother usually ended up going to bingo, and we would go to the movies around the corner, the town cinema. Yeah, where we could go to the movies. It was a quarter to get in, 10 cents for a drink and 5 cents for popcorn, or the opposite, but it was like 40 cents for an afternoon out. It was amazing. I don't know how many movies I saw there. And there were my cousins from my Uncle Jimmy, my two cousins, Lorraine and Dorothy. I used to really enjoy visiting them. We would go to the States one summer, and then the following year they would come here, and we would go do all the touristy stuff. And the best part about going to the States for me was they lived on a street called Thaddeus. And down on the corner, it was a little bit of a long walk, there was a Dairy Queen. I used to love to walk there and go get ice cream. I just loved it. And back then, when they had the dip cones in the States, they had different flavors, not just chocolate, not just butterscotch. They had lime, blueberry, raspberry, cherry. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Another interesting fact that I neglected to mention was the fact that when we visited Poland, I found out I had another brother. That's right, 2 half brothers, one from my father and one from my mother. My brother Sergius was born and raised in Poland. It was very hard to communicate when I met him because I didn't speak Polish and he didn't speak a word of English. Later on, I'd say I was in my early 20s. My dad sponsored him to come to Canada for 6 months. He lived with my parents, and I got to know him then a little bit. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, because of our inability to communicate, and at that time we didn't have Google Translate or anything like that, so it was difficult, and I guess we lost touch once my father passed away. And he has 2 daughters, Dorotka and Alicia, and I tried to find them on Google, but because they likely grew up, got married, and now have their husbands' names, it's more difficult. But I have been trying, and every now and then I'll get an urge to see if I can find them. My childhood was full of surprises. Life is full of memories and experiences with different people that all factor into it in this nice little bundle that we call memories. And I think it's important that on Remembrance Day, we pay homage to all of the people that we love and that we've shared moments with. And of course, absolutely, all of the people that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And that is why on this Remembrance Day, I thought it was important to share a little bit of our family history with all of you.